Hello, welcome to everyone to the Book and Tonic Facebook page. My name's Nia Beynon. I'm an editor at Boldwood Books, and I'm absolutely delighted to be in conversation this evening with the brilliant best-selling author Jessica Redland, who I have the absolute pleasure of working with. Jessica is top 10 best-selling author of 10 novels, mostly set around the fictional location of Whitsborough Bay, which is inspired by her hometown of Scarborough. One of the novels, which she's brilliantly written, is Starry Skies Over the Chocolate Pot Cafe, which is out today. And we're absolutely delighted to be celebrating her publication day with her today on Facebook Live. Starry Skies is a wonderful, uplifting, festive story set in Whitsborough Bay. Trust me, it is an absolutely gorgeous read. You're going to love it. So please join me in wishing a very happy publication day to Jessica today. And in 1 second, I will introduce Jessica to you. But the plan for the evening, just to let you know, is we're going to start off with a reading from Jessica from Starry Skies Over the Chocolate Pot Cafe. Then we're going to have a bit of a chat about the book and finish off with a chat about being a writer, any tips, etc. Please feel free to leave comments. We'll answer questions as we go along. And thank you so much to everyone who has sent in all your brilliant questions. We'll do our best to get through them all. But please, like I say, feel free to leave more in the comment section. So please join me in welcoming Jessica Redland.
Hello. It worked. Yay.
It did work. Happy publication day, Jessica.
Thank you very much.
What have you been doing today to celebrate?
I'd love to say I've been having my feet up, drinking champagne, eating cake all day, but I've actually been unpacking a huge bedroom furniture delivery, getting very hot and sweaty and lugging furniture between different rooms. So really exciting way to spend publication day. But I was on social media a bit this morning, looking at all the congratulations messages, and I'll do that again after this. So that's the kind of nice part. Although new bedroom furniture, always nice to have.
I love it. It's so glam. It's the glam life of a full-time author. Fab. So do you want to kick off with your reading? We've got lots of people who have joined us. So if we kick off with the reading and then we'll go into the questions afterwards.
Lovely, thank you very much. Okay, so I'm going to be doing a reading from Starry Skies Over the Chocolate Pot Cafe, and quite often an author might just do the beginning bit, and I'm actually diving part way in, but I'll explain why in a moment. But just to give some context for anybody who hasn't read the book, I thought I'd just read you the blurb, so you've got a bit of a feel for what it's all about. So the blurb is that everyone is getting into the festive spirit on Castle Street. Snow is falling, fairy lights are glistening, and Christmas shopping is underway. But for Tara Porter, owner of thriving cafe The Chocolate Pot, this is the most difficult time of the year. From the outside, Tara is a successful businesswoman and a pillar of the community, but behind closed doors, she's lonely. With a lifetime of secrets weighing on her shoulders, she's retreated from all friends, family and romance, and shut her real self away from the world. After all, if you don't let them in, they can't hurt you. She's learnt that the hard way. But as the weight of her past becomes heavier and an unexpected new neighbour moves onto the street, threatening the future of her cafe, Tara begins to realise that maybe it's time to finally let people back in and confront her history. It could just change her life forever. Da, da, da. So as I said, I'm going partway through the book. I'm going for chapter 13 because this kind of links nicely to the blurb and the part where it says that an unexpected person moving into Castle Street threatens the future of the cafe. So Tara is about to come face to face with that person. His name is Jed Ferguson, and he's the man who sold her the premises for the Chocolate Pot many years earlier before emigrating with his family. But after the tricks that he pulled during the sale, Australia wasn't far enough as far as Tara's concerned. But she's heard through a business club, Bay Trade, that she's part of, that somebody is looking for premises on Castle Street, and she's sure she's spotted him looking through her window. So she's slightly concerned that Jed may be back in the area. And this chapter starts with a conversation in the cafe with one of her staff, and Hercules, who gets mentioned shortly, is one of the absolute stars of the book. He is Tara's giant house rabbit, and if you don't want a house rabbit by the time you finish this book, as well as a hot chocolate and a large piece of cake, then I've missed my mark somewhere. Okay, so can I ask you a question? Molly said when the customer left. You're not thinking of selling this place, are you? No, never. What made you ask that? There was a man upstairs earlier asking questions. My jaw tightened. What sort of questions? Things like how many customers we serve in a day, whether we're significantly busier at the weekend, whether we do evening events, that sort of thing. Did you tell him anything? She shook her head. I just said it was a very busy and successful cafe, but I didn't elaborate. That just sounds like a nosy customer. What made you jump from that to me selling this place? She giggled. Sorry, missed out the most essential part. He said, what do you think it would take for your boss to sell up? I laughed at him and said you'd need to be on your deathbed before you even thought about selling up. My jaw clenched. What did he look like, this man? Tall, blonde and tanned, probably early 40s. Jed, I muttered. Jed Ferguson. Who? I shook my head. Nobody, but there's nothing to worry about. I'm definitely not selling, and if I was, which I'm not, he'd be the last man on earth I'd allow to get his grubby little paws on my business. He seemed nice, she said. Nosy, but nice. Well, he isn't, and if he comes in here again, please let me know immediately. Closing time couldn't come soon enough for me. I felt shattered as I climbed up the stairs to my flat with my plate of dinner. Hercules was already waiting for me by the door, eager for cuddles. I put my plate down and hugged him. That nasty Jed Ferguson was in the chocolate pot today, I told him as I put out some fresh food. Or at least I think it was him. The description sounded about right. Well, apart from the part where she said he was nice. I'm certain it was him looking through my window, and I'm pretty sure it'll have been him asking the Bay Trade guys about premises. What was he doing back from Australia? And what right did he have to question my team? My shoulders slumped. At least he bothered to ask them questions. It would appear that I never did. What an eye-opener my conversations with Neve and Molly had been. I knew I struggled to let people in, but there was a difference between that and completely shutting people out. Things had to change. Namaste, said Karen at the end of my Pilates class that evening. Namaste, the class repeated. I breathed in and out deeply a couple more times, then opened my eyes. Back in the flat with Hercules, I'd come so close to ditching Pilates, but I decided that an hour of exercise and relaxation might do me the world of good, and it certainly had. Until I finished rolling up my mat and heard his voice. Of all the Pilates classes in all the towns in all the world, she walks into mine. I leapt up, my mat springing open, tension instantly returning to my body as I turned to face him. He looked exactly how I remembered, except he now had a deep tan which accentuated his green eyes. The years had been kind to him, with no sign of hair loss and only a few crinkly laughter lines, yet I still couldn't bear the sight of him. Except it's not your Pilates class, is it, Jed? I snapped. And it's not your town either. What the hell are you doing back here? Ooh, still feisty after, what is it, 13 years? About 13 and a half, and you haven't answered my question. Taking a Pilates class, he said. It's good for the body and soul. Shaking my head, I bent down and rolled up my mat again, muttering under my breath. For some ridiculous reason, I couldn't seem to get the ends to curl under. That never happened. Do you want a hand? Jed asked. I turned my head and narrowed my eyes at him. From you? Never. Exasperated, I grabbed the mat as it was and tried to drape it over my arm. It didn't want to play. Thanks, Karen, I said, heading for the door, wrestling with the stupid piece of foam. Thanks, Tara. See you next week, she said. I knew he was behind me as I made my way out the sports hall and down the corridor. He was probably looking me up and down, just like the first time we'd met. When we made it into the car park, I turned to confront him. What? What do you want? He looked a little shocked at my raised voice. Nothing. There's only one exit from the building, so I have to come this way. And my car's parked over there in case you think I'm following you. It's the white one. I looked to where he pointed and my stomach sank. It was only parked right next to mine. Sighing, I continued walking. And it is my town. He moved in to step beside me. What? When I said that admittedly stupid line, you said it wasn't my town, and I'm saying it is. I'm Whitsborough Bay, born and bred, which is more than could be said for me. Jed laughed. Wow, age certainly hasn't mellowed you. And it hasn't improved you, I snapped. Touché. And if you'd have let me finish, I was going to say I'm Whitsborough Bay born and bred, which is why I'm here at the moment. My parents and extended family still live here. My voice softened. So you're just here for a holiday? Sort of. We reached the cars. I unlocked mine, stuffed my misbehaving mat in the boot, then slammed it closed. And you're going back to Australia? Yes, next week. Glad to hear it. Safe trip. I made my way down the side of my car, thankful that there was a wide space between the two vehicles, as it would be just my luck to open my door too far and take a dent out of his car. I wouldn't have cared about damaging his property, but I didn't want to look like even more of an idiot in his presence than I already had. And then I'll be back, for good, in October. I stopped dead. One leg in the car, my body crouched ready to sit. What? I said I'll be back for good in October. I'm looking for premises for my new business. See you then. He climbed into his car and slammed the door. Leaping up, I banged on his window. He wound it down and raised an eyebrow at me. You can't have the chocolate pot, you know. It's not for sale. Everything's for sale if the price is right. You could offer me £10 million and the chocolate pot would still not be for sale. Jed laughed. Just as well, I'm not looking to regress. Then what were you doing asking one of my staff questions about the business today? Because I know it was you. He laughed again. Checking out the competition. Then he wound his window up and floored the accelerator, leaving me with my mouth wide open and my heart pounding. I sat in the driver's seat, breathing deeply. Checking out the competition? Did that mean he was going to open a cafe when he returned in October? I shook my head. So what if he did? His style was greasy spoon, and therefore a completely different clientele. Besides, there were currently no affordable, suitably sized premises available for lease or purchase on Castle Street or any of the other side streets, and an independent business could not afford the main precinct. But as I drove back to the chocolate pot, my heart wouldn't stop thumping. There might be no suitable premises available now, but businesses closed all the time. Owners retired, circumstances changed, customer tastes changed, trends came and went, and for a multitude of reasons, businesses failed. In my 13 and a half years on Castle Street, I'd lost count of how many I'd seen open and close. October was 9 months away, and a lot could happen during that time. An awful lot. So that's the end of the chapter. Will Jed open in competition with Tara, and will it impact on her thriving business? And what was that part about shutting people out? Now, that's a big theme for Tara, her past preventing her from trusting and letting people in. Could she find the courage to do this? If you want to find out, then you will need to read Starry Skies Over the Chocolate Pot Cafe. Hope you enjoyed the little read.
Yay, that was so great. Thank you, Jessica. I always
the Australian accent. I thought that would be a bit of a nightmare.
I always say you should do, voiceover, or you should do like audio narration or whatever. You've got such a good reading voice. I love it.
Thank you.
So lovely feedback on Castle Street. Absolutely loved it. Quite a few questions have come through during that, which actually I'm going to pick up on straight off the back of your reading. So for anyone who isn't aware, so Starry Skies Over the Chocolate Pot Cafe was previously published as Christmas at the Chocolate Pot Cafe. One of the questions that we've had in from Trisha is this new publication any different from the original version, e.g. any extra chapters? So I'll let you answer that one, Jessica.
Yeah, so what's been brilliant since I joined Boldwood is that all of my back catalogue have been acquired and they've come out. We've had 7 releases this year now. 7, that's so greedy. And one of those, Finding Love at Hedgehog Hollow, is brand new, but the others have been back catalogue re-releases. And all of them have had a completely fresh edit. Some have had bits taken out, bits tightened up. With New Beginnings at Seaside Blooms, for example, that was originally released 5 years ago and technology's moved on since, so we updated it. With this particular one, this book was always just a slightly shorter, although a full-length novel, it was a shorter full-length novel than many that I've written before. And although I was very happy that the ending was all tied up, it didn't quite go to Christmas. And after I'd finished it, I felt that not that it was unfinished, but it could go further. And so when I discussed it with Nia, I said what my suggestion was for how it could change and what could be different. And we ended up adding in about 25,000 additional words. The number of chapters isn't much different. I think there's only 1 or 2 chapters different, but there's loads of different scenes in there. So some of the things that happen a little bit later. Some things happen now that never happened before. And it did finish, I think about the 9th, 10th of December or something like that. And now it goes right up to Christmas Day. So if anybody has read the previous version, the fundamental story doesn't change. The characters don't change. There's an extra thread to do with Jed's family that comes in there. But there's a lot more to the ending. And that doesn't mean the ending is longer. There's more happening in the approach to Christmas. So you do, if you've read it before, you could read it again and you're getting about another third of the book added in. So lots of additional story. So yeah, please buy it.
Yes.
You're not going to miss out and be lost of any of the other books if you have already read the previous version.
Exactly. It's more sort of added bonus content rather than changing the story altogether, I would say.
Yeah,
lots more festive magic.
Yes.
I would say. The book is obviously very festive. There is a lot in it about festive traditions, that sort of thing. So one of the questions I wanted to ask you, Jessica, now we're in September, so literally the run up to Christmas is here. What are your favourite festive traditions? Is there anything that you and your family do that has inspired any of your books, or anything a little bit different that you do?
I wouldn't say we do anything massively different, but when I was growing up, I had 2 brothers. I still have 2 brothers, but when we were younger, obviously, I've got a brother who's 2 years older and I've got one who's 6 years younger. So the Christmas magic was able to stay for a little bit longer because of having a younger brother. And we always, when we got up on Christmas morning, we'd put a stocking up downstairs, and my dad would have to go downstairs and make sure Santa had been. We were not allowed to go downstairs until that Santa check had happened, which was basically for him to switch on the lights and put some music on and the tree lights and everything. And when I met my husband, his family tradition had been they would put stockings at the end of their bed and they would get filled and they would open them and then go into their parents. And I didn't like the idea much of not seeing my daughter opening her gifts. And I'd always loved the fact that my dad would check to see if Santa had been. So we've sort of blended that. Ashley, our daughter, gets a stocking at the end of her bed with just bits and bobs in it, sweets and things. But she always ends up bringing it into our room and opening it there. And then I do the Santa check. And then she's allowed down, and it's just a nice thing. But I know there are lots of traditions that other people have. Like we never had Christmas Eve boxes, but my younger brother's family do, and that's something that I mentioned in the book that Tara used to do when she was a child, and it's kind of a happy memory from her childhood. And she also used to go around with her dad and judge which house had the most beautiful decorations in the window in the neighbourhood, and they put a homemade card and a bar of chocolate through the letterbox from Santa's elves to whichever one they think is the most beautiful house. And again, that's not something that I've ever done. I don't know anyone who's done it, but I just thought, oh, that's a lovely tradition, and that's something that recurs in the book, but I won't give a spoiler away on that bit.
Yeah, I think that is actually one of my favourite festive traditions that I picked out from the book, was the chocolate bar for the people with the best Christmas lights. I just think that's so lovely.
I know. If anyone did that round our way, I'd be devastated if I didn't win, though. My trees.
I know. Children are the harshest critics as well. So and apart from Christmas, what would you say are sort of the main themes, the main messages that you think your readers will get from the book?
There's a few of them. One of them is kind of the importance of kindness, and that's a thread that runs through quite a few of my books. I like my protagonists to have a level of kindness about them and kind of look after others. But a big thing in this book is it's not just kindness to other people, it's kindness to yourself. Tara has not been kind to herself. And that kind of links to the next theme, which is that your past does not define you. And Tara hasn't let her past define her, but it has let her become the person that she is. So she's strong and she's running a successful business, but it's the behind the scenes that she has let that define who she is in her personal life. There's the idea that just a few minutes of courage could change your life. There's quite a few times in the book where she has to be really, really brave, and it's that idea, what's the worst thing that could happen if you say that thing, if you push yourself out there. Another one is that people aren't always what they seem, and that works both from somebody who might be seen to be bad who isn't, and somebody who you might think is good turns out not to be so good. So that's explored. And then the final one, and then it's something that kind of really hit home with me, is that not everybody loves Christmas. And having had a happy childhood and always had a family around celebrating Christmas, and then having my own family, it's easy to think, oh, everybody's happy at this time of year, but they're not. For whatever reason, there can be all sorts of different reasons that people don't like the festive season. And it was really interesting getting behind Tara's thought process as to why she doesn't like Christmas, and how, because the book's set from Christmas Eve one year right up until Christmas Day the following year, it's great to see the comparison of the two different Christmases in her life as she's gone through her journey of learning over the course of the book.
I think actually when we were going through the editorial process, and when I sent you your notes for this book, I think that was something that really hit home with me, actually, was just, picking out on Christmas isn't always the happiest time of year for everyone. And often, it's painted as the most wonderful time. And it was really refreshing to read something that didn't, it's an incredibly uplifting, feel good read in many ways, but that doesn't necessarily just because Christmas is featured. And I think that's something really interesting and really refreshing to read. The other thing I think is a really important theme from the book is friendship. I mean, this obviously comes through all of your books, feature friendship, and all of, that's partly why I love your book so much, is because it's not, it is romance and there's love in it, but a lot of it is love between friends. It's not always romantic relationships. And I think in this one, you mentioned earlier, one moment of courage can change your life. And a lot of the times it's friends pushing her, or Tara finally opening herself up to other people who then become friends, who then can encourage her to come out of her comfort zone. And that's just so, that's the sort of uplifting, feel good aspect of it, is that, as long as you've got the right people around you, you can get through the most difficult situations like she has. So yeah, I think that's a lovely theme from the book as well.
And as you say, it's something that recurs in all of my books, is around friendships. Friendships fascinate me in how they change over time and over circumstance. And I think it's important that, although, there's a romance in every single one of my books, but sometimes it doesn't appear till quite late in the book. And that's deliberate, because it's about the journey that the protagonist goes on. And I'm conscious, there will be people who are reading my books who are single, who don't want to meet somebody else, or have gone through a bad relationship. And I think it's nice that they can draw a parallel and links with all the friendships that are going on, and feel, that could be me. I might be unlucky in love at the moment, but actually there's friends around, and I like that Tara lets her friends in, and I like that such and such a character has developed a friendship. So yeah, it's very important what I write.
Definitely. And is there anything in Tara's character that you've drawn from yourself? Are there any of her characteristics that are characteristics of yours?
Not really. Her drive and her desire to do well and be a success, that probably does come from me. And I've run my own business, so I could, not a cafe, but I've run a shop, so I could relate to that. But personality wise, not really. I don't have skeletons in my closet from a past that I'm hiding from or anything like that. But I think everybody, you know, even when you have friends and family around you, everybody can experience loneliness at one time or another. And even when you do have lots of people in your life, you can have moments like that. And I felt I could draw on that to understand why Tara might feel lonely at times. But yeah, so I'd say more her business side relates to me, but not so much her personal side.
Yeah. It was the business side that I thought, when I was reading it, made me think of you, because obviously I know you've run your own business in the past, but also she's a very fair, nice boss, and that's how I imagine you would be.
Actually, I have had a team of 25, I think it was, reporting to me at one point, and yeah, I was always a fair boss. Always used to think, you know, would I like being treated like that? So thank you.
And is there anything, anyone in the book that's related to anyone from real life? You know, it doesn't have to be your own characteristics, but is there anyone that's sort of inspired by someone in your life?
No, all of my characters are just complete fiction, completely from the top of my head. I have a rough idea about what I want them to be like, and then they kind of just come to life on the page. Across all of my books, and gosh, I don't know how many, I must have hundreds of characters across all the titles. The only one who is anything really like me is Sarah in New Beginnings at Seaside Blooms. The story was a personal story, and she is a lot like me. But yeah, none of the other characters, there might be aspects that unwittingly I've drawn from somebody else, but generally no, they're just completely, they're the people, the voices in my head that come out on the paper.
We've actually had one, first of all, Ian has given us a lovely shout out, which I think I'm going to show on the screen now, to say that you've currently got 6 books with bestseller flags on Amazon. So we'll do a yay! Thank you, Ian, for shouting that out.
Actually, one of my books is keeping another one of my books off the top slot. So I think Hedgehog Hollow keeps knocking Making Wishes off one of the top categories. Competing with it.
Yeah, it's a good problem to have.
Yeah.
Then I've got this question from Beverly, which should be up on your screen now. So this is, do you choose the titles for your books before you write them?
Interesting. So my very, very first book, my debut novel, the title came right at the beginning. This is now New Beginnings at Seaside Blooms, but it was originally called Searching for Stephen. And if anybody has read it, they would understand where that title came from. And then the rest of that series became alliterative, involving the male character's name. But when we were relaunching with Boldwood, obviously we wanted it to be completely fresh. And all of those titles in the series have a bit of a theme, but they were a kind of a joint effort. We changed the name of the shop. The shop wasn't called Seaside Blooms, but actually I absolutely love that. I think I burnt out of creativity when I wrote it, and it used to be called Flowers and Gifts because I couldn't think anything creative. So I was really pleased to have Seaside Blooms, and we created Lighthouse Cove as well. It was there was an area of the beach in the third book, Finding Hope at Lighthouse Cove, that Elise, the main character, would often visit. But it never got a name, and it was just we brainstormed ideas, didn't we? And we had a few things that we were thinking of. And Lighthouse Cove just sounded like really lovely, and there is a lighthouse at Whitspur Bay that features in many of the books. With the Hedgehog Hollow series, the place was named Hedgehog Hollow, the rescue centre, and always knew we wanted to keep that in the title. That was kind of a given right at the beginning, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And then Nia came up with Finding Love for that one, which is very much the theme of what that story is all about. But then we brainstormed together for books 2 and 3 some ideas and all sorts of different kind of suggestions, and we've got a couple of titles that follow, and they're all something at Hedgehog Hollow, so that very much follows the theme. And then Starry Skies was, as Nia said, originally Christmas at Chocolate Pot Cafe. Again, wanted to keep the chocolate pot in the title because it's lovely. I did have a moment of creativity for a business for that one. That was in right at the beginning. But Nia, you came up with Starry Skies, didn't you? Just absolutely loved it. Thought that was just perfect. And it made sense because the book it's front and back ended by Christmas, but it's not purely Christmas. And in the edit, we've got quite a bit more that happens in between those 2 Christmases than did in the previous version. So it didn't make as much sense to have Christmas in the title compared to Christmas at Carly's Cupcakes, which is just purely set in December, and it absolutely is a complete Christmas book.
Answering that question, obviously you've gone through quite a few of your catalogue and the different series, etc. Kim has sent in a question to say she hasn't read one of your books yet, but where should she start?
Gosh, thank you, Kim. It's very kind of you. You could start right at the beginning with the series, and there's 4 books in that, so Making Wishes at Bayview is a start. Although quite a lot of people start with New Beginnings at Seaside Blooms, although it's book 2. Making Wishes is sort of separate. It's a prequel. You don't have to read that one in order, but I would definitely read book 2, 3, and 4 in order because they're about 3 friends, and each one takes a focus in one of the books, and you find out what's happening to the others. But if you fancy delving into the Christmas books, Christmas at Carly's Cupcakes is a great place to start. A couple of the other business owners do get mentioned, but you don't have to have read their books in order for them to make sense. I think Sarah from Seaside Blooms appears in pretty much most of the books because she was my first character. I think there's only actually Hedgehog Hollow that she doesn't appear in. I think she is mentioned in all of the others. But you wouldn't have had to know her story, and there are no spoilers if you don't know her story, if you start with Christmas at Carly's Cupcakes, or you start with the Hedgehog Hollow series. There is only one character from any of the other books just briefly mentioned, which is Reese from Making Wishes at Seaside Blooms, but he doesn't actually appear as a character. He's just mentioned. So again, you don't need to have read any of the others. Would you agree with that, Nia?
Yeah, I think so. I think starting with the Whitspur Bay series is sort of staple Jessica Redland reading. So with those 4, but then, the Hedgehog Hollow, they're all set in Whitspur Bay. Hedgehog Hollow is set just outside Whitspur Bay. Like Jessica said, there's one character that sort of comes in, but you still get that very much community feeling of where that's set. And obviously, instead of being set by the seaside, it's set in the countryside, which gives something a little bit different. One of the questions we got sent in actually on Facebook previously was whether, so obviously the chocolate pot is set on Castle Street, which is also where Carly's Cupcakes is based. One of the questions we've had is, are there any more shops on Castle Street that we haven't visited yet?
Oh, that's a good question. So Castle Street, I envisage as being full of independent shops and businesses off the main precinct in Whitspur Bay, very much cobbled, old properties, very beautiful. And there is a shop called Bear With Me that there is a book around, which again is getting the Boldwood treatment and will be out in March. So you might, if you've not read that one, you might want to wait for the fresh edit of that. And we get to know all about Gemma there. There's also Charlie's Chocolates, a chocolate shop, hence the title. Again, that's getting Boldwood treatment and will be refreshed version out of that next year. But there are other businesses that I'm keen to explore. In Making Wishes at Bayview, I mentioned Bay Books. It's a bookshop, and being an author, I couldn't not write a book that involves a bookshop at some point. And I have a firm story around what I think would be involved in that. I have mentioned in Seaside Blooms a shop called Castle Jewellery. I don't have an idea in my head for that, but the cogs keep whirring and brewing. But I have, and these are things that I will discuss with Nia when we talk about whether I get a fresh contract beyond my current contract. There's a gift shop I have a really clear idea for. We've talked about a sequel to Starry Skies, and there is also, I went to visit a cat cafe called Steampus Cat Lounge in Scarborough this last week, and it's I've got inspiration as well. So a cat cafe, which would not be in competition with Tara because it's a very different thing, is an idea I have something for as well. And I kind of envisaged it as that over time this entire world would build based around people who either own the businesses on Castle Street or who work there, because it's not realistic for every single character of mine to own a business. So some books might be about, if I did one around Castle Street jewellery, for example, it might be that it's just somebody who works there. They're not the business owner. We have something else. So yeah, lots of ideas.
That's the great thing about having a world like you have. The world of Whitspur Bay it's all in your brilliant imagination, and it can go as far and as wide as you want it to. But also, even though most of the books are standalone in many ways, your readers who have read all of your books are very much rewarded by the fact that, they can notice characters who've popped in and out of different ones. They'll get the odd inside joke that other people's might not get. And I just think that's really lovely and rewarding for your loyal readers.
And that's the thing, and I very much tried to write it that when they do like cameo appearances in other books, that if you are just starting with that book, you will not be thrown by that person. But if you are a fan and you've read them all, you'll be like, oh look, it's Callie back, and that's what Elisa's doing now. So particularly the Welcome to Whitspur Bay series, so many people have absolutely loved that, but I don't envisage myself writing a sequel, a follow-up to those, because their stories are complete. But the fact that they can appear in other things means that we can get to have a feel for, have they got married, have they got families, have this, that and the other happened. And so in Starry Skies, it's set about 6 years after, I'm going to lose track, after Making Wishes at Bayview. And the main character, Callie, in Bayview, appears, and she's the best friend of somebody who works in the cafe, Maria. And we get to see, I won't give spoilers away, but we get to see where Callie is with her life at that point. And again, somebody who's not read Making Wishes would not be thrown at all. As far as they're concerned, it's Maria's best friend, but somebody who has read it would be like, oh, look, that's what's happened to Callie. That's nice. So, yeah.
No, I think that's really lovely. I've got to say, I was slightly distracted then because there's so many comments coming in about people loving Castle Street. Everyone's just going, I love Castle Street. I want to visit Castle Street.
Oh, I know. It's based on a real street, actually, Bar Street in Scarborough, if anybody's familiar with that, but mixed with, if anyone knows Whitby, the cobbles of Whitby on the Abbey side of the river, and also Robin Hood's Bay, which is a beautiful fishing village just up the coast from us. So it's sort of a blend of all three of those, but predominantly I think of it as Bar Street in Scarborough.
Whenever you go to those places, you just constantly sort of bubbling with ideas. This is where this would have been. This is where that would have been.
Yeah. And the amazing thing is that the Steampus Cat Cafe actually is on Bar Street in Scarborough. So it's on Castle Street. So it has to be written about at some point.
What was the Cat Cafe like? Just to go off on a tangent very briefly.
Oh, it's amazing. So they have 12 cats, and they don't bring them all in, and they had 8 in, and there's 2 levels, and I was on the ground floor level, and there's one below. But all of the cats congregate on the ground floor level in the window, and they have this big kind of cat scratching post with lots of beds in it, and they have 2 vintage suitcases, and the cats are curled up in these vintage suitcases, and they're absolutely gorgeous. And they just serve hot drinks, milkshakes, soft drinks, and cake. So I'm in heaven, milkshake and a piece of Victorian sponge, lovely. And you've got an hour in there, an hour experience, and you can just stroke all of the cats. And they're not on your tables or anything. They were asleep, but you were allowed to stroke them while they were asleep. And then one of them got up, and there's lots of ledges built into the wall, and it went climbing up all of the ledges. And it was just fabulous. My daughter, she's 13 and a half, and she came out, she just went, that was the best day ever.
Oh,
and
so nice.
so yeah, she absolutely loved it. So we'll definitely go back. It's a great place to visit.
Yeah. Oh, that's lovely. We're getting lots of questions now generally about your writing, about being an author. So I'm going to move the chat on from Starry Sky specifically. First question I've had in is from Sue. How do you keep track timeline-wise of all these amazing characters? I know the answer to this, and it is very impressive.
Oh, such a geek. I have a spreadsheet.
Giant spreadsheet.
I've worked out, so each of my books in my head is set in a particular year, and it doesn't, the general public don't need to know what that year is, but it just helps me to keep track of days of the week and different things like that. And so I have this spreadsheet that I can therefore work out that when we get to a certain book, 6 years of move forward or 4 years of move forward, and know what's going on. And the timeline has maybe skewed slightly because we re-released the books, but yeah, I do have an absolute track of everything that's happened and when, and I have on my spreadsheet that has all the, who is the main character, who is their love interest, where do they live, how old are they, all of these kind of, if they have children, the names of the children, if they have an animal, the name of the animal. And yeah, I do live a bit off my my spreadsheets. It's but gosh, they've saved the day so many times. You think I haven't a clue where I am. It's all in Excel.
Yeah, no, it's very, very handy. Lovely Diane Saxon has left us a lovely question. Are you a plotter or a pantser?
Now this will just contradict completely what I've said about keeping I'm pantser, complete and utter pantser, which surprises everybody who knows me because I'm actually a massive planner. I'm super duper organised, but when it comes to writing, complete pantser. I know what my story is going to be. I develop my characters quite a lot, and I know what the ending's roughly going to be, but I don't know how I'm going to get there, and I just let it unfold. And sometimes the characters hijack that and do something that I'm not expecting them to do, but I will just go with that flow and see where it takes me. But yeah, very much a planner in my life, very much a pantser. I tried to plan once. What a waste of time that turned out to be, because as soon as I tried to write it, the characters just hijacked it again. So yeah, don't bother with that at all. But I think, you very naturally, somebody is either one style or another. And once you've got into your flow, I think it's very hard to change. I'll plan little bits, and I probably planned a bit more when I'm doing a sequel than I might do with the first one. But yeah, fly by the seat of my pants.
One of the questions that we got sent in on Instagram before this was related to this. It was, do you ever have to change a plot halfway through because the characters are doing things differently to how you planned?
I've had to do that on a few of my books. And again, because I am a pantser, I don't have this massive plan that I've needed to change. But when I wrote The Secret to Happiness, which was my first Boldwood release, I had a particular character in that who was going to be a baddie. Such a juvenile word to use. She was going to be the baddie, and she didn't want to be, and she actually turned out to be really quite a nice person and a massive ally to one of the main characters, and that surprised me. So I then had to do a complete rethink as to who was going to be the baddie in the role that I had originally envisaged her taking. And so I've had a few other books where something similar has happened, where a character is either just, I don't know, just hasn't gone with the flow of what I've wanted, or they've turned out to be a bit of a surprise and they've either become somebody different or they've even been written out of the book because it just wasn't going to work with them.
It's interesting. So currently Jessica and I are working on the sequel to Finding Love at Hedgehog Hollow. And that's the first time, correct me if I'm wrong, that you've written a really sort of direct sequel. Obviously, the Welcome to Whitbread Bay series is a series, but it tackles a different character in each one within the friendship group, so it's slightly different. With Hedgehog Hollow, how have you found that writing a sequel? Because, like you say, because you're a pantser, you don't necessarily plan out the whole journey of every character in advance. So how did you find writing that second book?
really hard. And it was so funny because I completely underestimated or completely not appreciated what it would be like writing a sequel that was a pure sequel with the same main character. And because I started writing with a series, I thought, yeah, I'm a bit of an expert at a series. I know how to do it. But as you say, completely different the way the Welcome to Whitspur Bay series is constructed. And partway through, I mean, that ended up being a massive change, didn't it? That I emailed you and said, I don't think it's working, but I'm thinking I shouldn't have it just told from the point of view of the main protagonist, Samantha. I'm thinking I need to tell it from somebody else's perspective as well. And this is what it would look like. And once we'd agreed that and made that decision, it was so much easier to write, because what I was doing is I was inventing reasons for Samantha to be there in order to tell Josh's story. And by having his perspective, it just, made it so much better. So the third one will also be two perspectives. So Samantha remains one of the voices throughout the whole thing because she is the owner of Hedgehog Hollow, but it will be Chloe. So if anybody's read Hedgehog Hollow, you might have taken a bit of a dislike to Chloe. She deserves to have a bit of a dislike taken to her. And we find out more about her in the third one.
We're getting a lot of love on the comments for people excited for the fact that there is a sequel to Finding Love at Hedgehog Hollow. It is available to pre-order up on Amazon. New arrivals at Hedgehog Hollow. So please do pre-order, ready for release in January. Going back to sort of general writing, we've got a lovely question from, hello Emma Murray, fellow Boldwood author. Her daughter has sent in a question. Her 10-year-old daughter has asked, do you reward yourself for reaching writing milestones? And if so, what do you reward yourself with?
Oh, I love that.
Lovely question. Yeah.
And now that's made me think I really should. But I don't. I don't really reward myself. Well, one thing I did do when I first finished and published a book, I had what's the word I'm looking for? A launch party. I don't know why I completely blanked on that word then, but I had a bit of a launch party for friends and family. And they really surprised me, astonished me by all bringing gifts. And so I had loads of flowers and bottles of wine and different things, which was lovely. And I have a friend who's now emigrated to Canada called Carrie, and her husband and his family ran a jewellery shop. And they bought me a troll beads bracelet. So it's a bit like a Pandora bracelet, if anyone's not as familiar with troll beads. And it had, and so it was a leather thong bracelet. And the charm was a little pile of 3 books. And I thought, oh, how lovely. And so inspired by that, then they were closing down the business because they were going to be emigrating to Canada. So I'd already written the next couple of books in the series. And so I went in and bought, in their closing down sale, a couple of charms that represented something from different parts of the series. So, for example, what's now book 3, Finding Hope at Lighthouse Cove, the main character, Elise, drives a lime green beetle. And they had a beetle car charm, obviously not lime green, that would be quite hideous on a bracelet, but and I got that, and I've now got a full troll beads bracelet, and there's something that represents generally about writing. So I've got the original books one, I've got one that's got hearts on it to say I write about romance, one that's got a seaside theme to show that I write about the seaside, and then there's a charm that represents every single book. So for example, I have a coffee cup for Starry Skies Over the Chocolate Pot Cafe. I have, I think it was a snowflake for Carly's Cupcakes. But that kind of took me to before I became a Boldwood author. And because the bracelet was full, I haven't come up with something that I want to do for the next one. So really, well, I say I got nothing for Secret Happiness. I lie. I did buy myself a bear. I collect bears. And so I bought a little jointed teddy bear. But I want to find a new thing to do for subsequent books. Or I just get another troll beads and I kind of fill it with a hedgehog and something. I don't know what I'd put on for the Secret to Happiness. Beach hut, maybe? Don't know.
Or you need some sort of boot camp. You need like a dumbbell.
Or smelly trainer or something like that. So then it's funny because I've often seen authors say, I wish I'd bought myself a piece of jewellery each time I've written a book. And so, yeah, it's really quite a nice thing to do. So, yeah. So there was but yeah.
I didn't know about that bracelet. That is so lovely. That is really, really lovely. You definitely need to think of something for Tiptapias and for the Hedgehog Hollows.
Definitely.
You have to have a brainstorm. Cool. Next question I've got is, what is it like being a full-time writer? So if anyone doesn't know, Jessica became a full-time writer very recently. So this is all quite new, but enlighten us. What is it like?
Yeah, absolutely amazing. Dream come true. That phrase that if you find something you love to do, you never work a day in your life. When I'm writing, it never feels like work. Even when I'm editing and it's not going so well, it still doesn't feel like work. I just think I'm the luckiest person alive to be able to spend my time sat in front of the computer, creating these characters, these stories that people are touched by. It's been astonishing during lockdown, the amount of messages I've got from people saying, I discovered your books and they've got me through lockdown, the uplifting, the escapism, and even I've spotted, and I'm just trying to keep my eye on some of the messages coming through just now, and there's a couple have come through saying, I discovered you last week and I've already binge read your whole series, which is lovely. So to know that making a difference, albeit really small, to somebody's life, just making them have that warm and fuzzy feeling that I know is so amazing when I get to the end of a book I've read and go, oh, I just absolutely love that, to know that my words letting somebody else feel that. My biggest downside though is that planting my backside down from 8:30 in the morning, say, and still being here at 10:30 at night and working every weekend. And I just need to be kinder to myself and take a little bit more time off. And I think a lot of people who write, particularly write full time, feel guilty when they're not. And I need to let go of that guilt and just say, it's a job and I don't have to do it 16 hours a day, 7 days a week. But I'm used to doing that from when I held down a day job and this, and it's a hard habit to break, but I'll get there.
I can imagine as well, if you're in full flow and you're writing and you're on a roll, I can see why you wouldn't want to stop. But then sleep is very important, so you do need to make sure you get sleep. Diane has actually just sent in a follow-up question of, what is your average daily word count?
I don't really have one. I know there's a lot of writers will say, I must write so many words a day and I don't feel right. And some days I might write just 600 words. Other days I could be on a roll and I could write 6,000. I think the most I've written in a day, I've done about 8,000 in one day. And it was I was absolutely on a roll. I knew exactly where the story was going, was quite far into it, knew what the characters were doing, and just felt in the zone. But I would consider, if I've sat down with a plan to write, if I've done anywhere between 1,000 and 2,000 words in a day, I'd feel pretty satisfied with that. But it depends. The beginning of a book for me is always way, way slower. Definitely, until I kind of really find the flow. I find that somewhere around about 15,000 words, it speeds up because we've got into the story properly at that point. All the setting up has been done. We know the characters, and they're now starting to deal with some issues.
Yeah. No. Every time I ask you, how's the writing going, you say, when I get to this percentage, then I'll be fine. It's just getting to that. It's always a slow start.
Yeah.
Is there anything you wish you'd been told before you became an author?
Good question. I think the main thing for me would be, and this is something that I'm still trying to teach myself and learn, is don't compare yourself to others. Comparisonitis is a horrendous disease amongst so many writers I know, and looking at everybody's on their different path and their different journey and their different speed to success. And I know some people probably think, oh gosh, you've just been an overnight success, and it's like, No, I haven't. 5 years before I got to the point that I am now and able to become a full-time writer. But I still, even now, I'm so bad at looking, and my really good writing friend Sharon Booth, she tells me I'm too hard on myself and that I beat myself up if I don't get that little bit higher. So once upon a time, to be top 1,000 would have been, oh my goodness, well, in fact, top 10,000, let's say, would have been amazing. And then top 1,000 and then 500, and each goal I achieve, I'm like, oh, can I just get the next one? Can I just get the next one? Beat myself up if it doesn't quite get there. And I need to just take that moment. And so I wish I'd known that would be so bad beforehand. But it's about me a lot. I'm always wanting to do better. And I know exactly where it stems from, because when I worked, not my last job, but kind of when I was probably in my 20s and 30s working, I was bullied a lot in the workplace by different managers and overlooked for promotions that I should have had, overlooked for bonuses. And I just constantly feel that I need to prove that I have a right to be where I am. And unfortunately, that has overlapped into my writing. So trying to get a grip on that at the moment. And the other thing,
proving them wrong now. You're proving them wrong now with all your success.
Yay. And the other thing is that I never expected the journey to be publication and to getting a good readership to be easy, but it was probably harder than I thought it might be, and didn't make the impact as an indie author that I would have hoped. So somebody's saying to me, be prepared for all the knockbacks. So you hear a lot, be prepared for rejections when you start submitting your work. But I think it's the not doing as well in the charts or having negative reviews or different things like that. And I'm actually really lucky. I've got hardly any negative reviews, which is touch wood, long may that stay. But when you get negative reviews, you're in great company. Dickens, Austen, they've all got them. So yeah, just a few things about preparing yourself for the journey would have been great to maybe know. So I try to be really honest if I write blog posts and things. I don't just make it all about the shiny stuff. I do try to talk about the downsides, because everything worth having has difficulty about it.
And if anyone hasn't read Jessica's blog, it is honestly my highlight of my week is reading Jessica's blog, because it's always so uplifting. But like you say, you're very honest about what's going on and very honest about the writing journey. And it's a really, really brilliant blog for anyone who hasn't already read it. Couple of quick questions as we're nearly running out of time, on same theme as being an author. So how have you found it different being an indie writer compared to being a publisher? We got this sent in by quite a few people, so I think this is one lots of people want to know.
Yeah, I found it, for me personally, being published specifically by Boldwood as well, just to be the best thing ever. And
not just because I'm here.
You pay me later for that one.
Yeah.
Now, I was really proud to be an indie writer, and I will absolutely continue to fly the flag for indie writers. I've got friends who are and do really, really well. And for some reason, I just didn't do as well as I would have hoped. And it was quite discouraging in some ways, because anyone who discovered my work loved it. I had all of these amazing reviews, but my discoverability was really, really poor. But then because you weren't making so much income out of it, the kind of investing in advertising and doing all of that, and it becomes a little bit of a vicious circle. And the difference in my writing career as an indie to my writing career with Boldwood is just chalk and cheese. Things are even more different than that. It couldn't be more different. I've become an international best-selling author with a top 10 book in Canada, top 20 in Australia, top 15 in the UK. These are just things. They weren't even on my radar as goals to achieve, because they just seemed so far distant to be achievable. So it absolutely has worked with me. But I think it's also about finding the right publisher, because I know some people, some writers settle and they don't quite get the right publisher for them, and they move around a little bit, and just, Boldwood have just been incredible, and it's an absolute pleasure to work with you, Nia, as you know. Just the detail about my edits, just amazing. Everything about it, could not be happier to have found my writing home. And all the other Boldwood writers, I mean, there's several of them, names I've been seeing, spotting up here, just so supportive of each other. And again, I'm part of another writing community called the Write Romantics, and we've been together virtually for 7.5 years nearly now. So supportive. Can see a couple of names there on the group as well. And they've been there through the indie journey and through now. But for me, definitely, indie is amazing, and it works so well for so many people. It just didn't quite work for me, and so I'm so glad to have found my home, which is why all of my back catalogue we've contracted, haven't we now? So whereas I could have kept some indie and continued to push them, and it just the world seemed to want to be with Boldwood.
And we're so delighted that you're with us. No, that's so lovely. And, it's like you say, it's finding the right home for you. And luckily we have found a very good partnership. Long may it continue. So we've just hit the hour mark. So I'm just going to finish with one more question. Another one which came in from quite a few people is, do you have any advice for budding writers?
Yes. I mean, quite a few things. Well, not long, but I would say write the story that's burning inside you. So the story that you absolutely want to write, not the one that you think would fit a current trend, because the reality is by the time you finish writing that, the trend will have moved on. So yeah, write the story that you're burning to write. Write because you have to write, that you couldn't imagine not writing. It's part of you. If you're writing because you want to be a millionaire, it happens for some, but for most it doesn't. Don't write because you want to make money. Write because you just couldn't not tell that story. Learn your craft. One big thing that I learned when I first wrote is that I always thought I was good at writing. I wrote a lot at work as part of my day job. I'd always been good at English at school, but actually writing a book versus writing just generally as part of your job, two very, very different things. And I spent a lot of time learning all of the rules around the different aspects of writing. And some writers break those rules, but I think you need to have an understanding of them to understand why you might choose to break them. And believe in yourself. Absolutely believe in what you're doing, and it may not happen to you immediately. It may happen to you 2 years, 5 years, 12 years down the line. But if it's that important to you and you've got stories to tell, absolutely tell them.
What a wonderful thing to end on. I feel a bit teary. Thank you so much to everyone who has joined us this evening. Sorry we didn't get through all the questions, but we will. I'm sure Jessica will be more than happy to go through the comments and answer any that we didn't get to. Thank you so much for your time, Jessica. Happy publication day. Go and enjoy, have a glass of fizz, and speak to you soon. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a lovely evening.
Thank you, everyone. And as Nia says, yes, I'll definitely go back through those questions. So all the best. Bye-bye. Thank you for joining us. Bye.
Bye.